Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to really get into a pretty tough story. It's about the recent wildfires near the Grand Canyon. Yeah, really devastating stuff. Our plan for this deep dive is to sort of unpack what happened with these fires, look at a major historical loss, and explore some, well, pretty unexpected challenges that came up. We're basing this on a really detailed USA Today network article. We'll cover the immediate hit the loss of a really famous historic landmark, but also some twists like these unforeseen dangers that complicated things quite a bit. So let's start right there with the immediate impact. The big headline event was the Grand Canyon Lodge on the North Rim. It was destroyed, basically consumed by one of two big wildfires burning north of the canyon. That was Sunday, July 13th. And these weren't small fires either. By then, they'd grown to, what, over 45,000 acres?
That's right. It's just a massive area. And if we zoom in a bit, the specific fire that got the lodge was called the Dragon Bravo Fire, also on the North Rim. Officials described its behavior on July 12th, the day before the lodge was lost, as extreme and volatile.
Hmm.
I mean, it jumped 500 acres just like that. You can sort of picture how intense that must have been.
Absolutely terrifying. And, it wasn't just the lodge, was it? The article mentions other structures, too.
No, definitely not. Preliminary reports, they mentioned losing somewhere between 50 and 80 structures in total.
50 to 80. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. That includes Park Service admin buildings, some visitor facilities. So, like you said, a whole operational center, really.
Okay. But amidst all that destruction, was there any, good news?
Hmm.
What about people?
Well, yes, thankfully. The best news really is that no injuries or loss of life were reported. Apparently, all the staff and residents were evacuated successfully before the fire really blew up.
That's incredible.
It really is, given how fast things were moving and how uh, volatile they said it was. A huge relief, I'm sure.
Definitely a relief. So, okay, let's circle back to the lodge itself. The article calls it beloved, historic. Let's unpack that. What was the Grand Canyon Lodge and why is its loss hitting so hard?
Right. Well, for anyone who's maybe visited the North Rim, you'd know it. It was pretty special. It opened way back in 1937, and the key thing is, it was the only hotel, actually, inside the national park boundaries on the North Rim.
The only one.
The only one.
Yeah.
So its location was just, unparalleled, gave you this incredible connection right to the canyon edge. And adding a layer here, this lodge, it actually had its own history with fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The one that just burned, that was actually a replacement. The original lodge on the North Rim, partly built for the Union Pacific Railroad, that one burned down in 1932.
No kidding. So history repeating itself almost?
In a way, yeah. The lodge that stood until last week, it was built right on the foundation of the old one. They even reused a lot of the original stone and materials.
Huh. That's fascinating. So they rebuilt it right there. Was the new design different?
It was. The architect, Gilbert Stanley Underwood, he actually scaled back the design from the original. The first one had a second story and an observation tower. Those were removed.
Hmm.
And Underwood was following these National Park Service guidelines at the time, making sure buildings sort of blended in, represented their environment.
Right, that rustic park architecture style.
Exactly. And its historical significance was, well, formally recognized, too. It was designated a National Historic Landmark back in 1987.
Okay, so a landmark, rebuilt after a fire once before. This cycle of destruction and rebuilding is really something, isn't it? It makes you wonder about the future and how we manage these places.
It really does. It forces you to think about, not just rebuilding, but rebuilding smarter, maybe with different materials, maybe thinking about climate resilience more. It's this constant tension between wanting to preserve these iconic spots and dealing with the increasing power of nature, like these intense fires.
Okay, so the lodge is gone, other buildings too. What does this mean for visitors now, like for the rest of this year?
Well, the impact is pretty immediate and quite drastic.
Nah.
The entire North Rim is going to stay closed.
The whole thing.
Yep, closed to all visitor access for the rest of the 2025 season.
Wow, okay. Why so long? Just the fire damage?
It's partly the damage, but also continued active fire behavior and just ongoing risks. Risks to people, risks to the remaining infrastructure. It's just not safe.
Got it. And does that closure affect other parts of the canyon, like down inside?
It does. The inner canyon is closed too. That includes Phantom Ranch, which is, a really popular spot. and the main trails leading down into the inner canyon are shut. We're talking about the North Kaibab, the South Kaibab.
So basically, huge parts of the typical Grand Canyon experience are off limits.
Yeah, and the Bright Angel Trail below Havasupai Gardens as well. It's a significant shutdown.
That scale of disruption is just immense. But you mentioned earlier there were some unexpected twists, something beyond just the fire itself.
Yes, and this is where the situation got even more complex and frankly dangerous. A really critical reason for closing the inner canyon wasn't just the fire proximity. It turns out a water treatment facility up on the north rim was damaged by the fire.
Okay. And what happened?
It started leaking chlorine gas.
Chlorine gas. Seriously.
Seriously. And that's, highly toxic. The big problem is that chlorine gas is heavier than air.
Oh, so it would sink.
Exactly. It could potentially settle down into the lower parts of the canyon,
Oh,
right where Phantom Ranch and those trails are.
that's incredibly dangerous. What did that mean for the firefighters?
Well, it created huge problems for them. First, it meant they had to stop dropping fire retardant in that area because of the gas risk.
Okay.
And second, it actually forced firefighting personnel themselves to evacuate certain areas. So it massively complicated their efforts to actually fight the fire near the leak.
So they're battling this huge volatile fire, and then they discover a toxic gas leak they have to deal with, too.
Precisely. It's like a nightmare scenario piled on top of another one.
Unbelievable. So despite that massive curveball, they're still trying to fight the fire. The article mentioned an aggressive, full suppression strategy. What does that actually mean on the ground?
Yeah, full suppression basically means they're hitting it with everything they've got. Ground crews, helicopters, air tankers dropping retardant where they
Yeah.
can safely do it now, bulldozers creating fire breaks. The goal isn't just containment, it's to put the fire out completely. And they did start ordering retardant drops again, focusing on the east side of the developed area, including around Roaring Spring. So still very much an active firefight, just incredibly complicated.
This has been, well, quite the deep dive. We've gone from the tragic loss of a historic building, the Grand Canyon Lodge, through these massive park closures, and then uncovered this completely unexpected chemical hazard, complicating everything for the responders and the park managers. It's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it raises some pretty big questions, doesn't it? I mean, when you have these disasters that are not just natural, like the fire, but also involve infrastructure failure, like the treatment plant, and chemical hazards, how does that change how we prepare? How do we protect these incredibly valuable, treasured places like the Grand Canyon moving forward? What does this chlorine leak incident teach us about anticipating the truly unexpected in these large-scale events?
That's definitely something to think about, not just rebuilding, but preparing for a future where these complex events might become, well, more common. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today.